Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Tech Tip Tuesday. My name is Ken Close, engineer, Healy lover, connoisseur of frequency, lover of this technology, and I get to be joined by these amazing gentlemen. Today I've got, well, co-hosting with me is Jake Barron. Jake, how you doing? Head of Ops.
Doing amazing. Thank you, Ken. Hello, everyone.
Welcome, 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 straight from Healy World. We also have Henry Pena, the guru of onboarding for the global planet of Earth. Hey, how you doing, Henry? Welcome.
Doing excellent, Ken. Thank you so much. Welcome, everybody.
So, guys, you know what? I'm honored and blessed to be able to be joined by these guys co-hosting this call because what we do here is we dive deep into Healy. And when I say Healy, I'm talking about everything quantum. It gets pretty deep sometimes, so hopefully you guys have got your helmet and you're able to buckle up and get ready for this blast off. What we do is this is it's a chat-based forum. So you guys put your questions in, you guide the whole show. We will unpack your questions. We will dig deep into what kind of things we can discover together and explore. Right, that's the fun part. It's all things Healy. So technology, hardware, software, concepts, all that kind of stuff. The only thing we can't do is we can't diagnose, treat, prevent, or talk about disease. That's it, right? I mean, there's resources for that. If you guys, want to know exactly what frequency or what program is for what condition in the body, guess what? We have a resource. It's an amazing database, and we can steer you there. We just can't talk about it here. What we want to do here is open the door and point the finger at the answers, right? So, all right, guys. So the chat is live. It is ready to rumble. So please put your questions in there. I don't know, you can put your theories in there, right? Let's see what you got. And if you don't have anything in there, we're going to make stuff up here. We're going to tell you about some stuff.
We did have a question. Henry just mentioned a little bit ago that we had somebody send in a question in advance. And for those of you that don't know, of course, we would like everybody to join us live, but occasionally that doesn't work out. So there is a way to submit questions in advance. And we did get, just like last week, we got one we needed to cover. We have one today. So how about we kick things off with this first question? And this is a good question. I would call this a classic question or a core question that we always, but it's been a little bit of time since I think we've covered this particular one. So the question is, I've never had any luck with the wrist strap. So the wristband electrodes. And I've ended up using the coil only. And the reason is because I can never get the wristbands to work. So the button attachment pops off when I move my arms for one of them, and it often says that I'm not getting the signal. So the frequency is generated, but no, that standard message there too. And it says the same is true when I've tried the sticky tabs. Can never get it to activate the frequency. So that's interesting that it's happening on both of those, the wristband electrodes, and the adhesive electrodes. The question is ultimately, what are the chances I could get sent a new set of connection cables and wristbands to rectify that one of them is not connecting, and how do I go about this? So there's a couple things we can discuss here, right? On this particular topic as well. But first of all, of course, we want everyone to have a good experience with their Healy. If you can't use any of the electrodes, that's not a good experience. For sure there too. But so Ken and Henry, what comes to mind first when you hear this too? Because you mentioned the wristbands, but this is also happening with the adhesive electrodes. For me, I'm thinking maybe this is a connection cable issue.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. So we've got these little button. These are snaps, right? These are literally
Yeah.
just like the snapping your shirt, your pants, whatever. When you're when you're snapping things together, it's a mechanical connection. But in the world of electronics, we need two specific things when it comes to integrity of a circuit. We need the mechanical connection, but we also need the electrical connection. And so if one of those is solid and the other one is not, when movement occurs, like what we do, we've got these connected to us, then you can lose the signal. And Healy wants a consistent signal of integrity. So my first impression with this, because it's happening with the wristbands and the sticky pads, that the wires themselves, right? There's the wire itself that plugs on that receiver portion of the snap. There may be some integrity issues, right? And this is just potentially a manufacturer thing. One cable. It doesn't take both of them, but one cable could have that spring-loaded mechanical connection in there, less solid than the other, right? That's the first thing. And I love the idea about what was said here about can I get some new parts?
Mhm.
Absolutely, right? That's the way to kind of diagnose what's going on, because we have to go through a process of elimination. One of the things that I like to do when we're doing these tests is I will take my Healy, I will connect it up to a Pink Dot app, right? One of the programs. And then I can actually take these two little connectors here, and I can actually pinch them together, and it will send a signal to my Healy that as if I was connected to me. Um, Now, that doesn't mean that the mechanical spring-loaded snap part is functional. It just means that this metallic tab that's on the end of this wire is still functional. And there's some inconsistencies with that too. But these two mechanical metal little functional ends here, they have purpose. And when they are connected together, then you will get a signal with your Healy if the wires are okay. But like I said, doesn't mean that the little spring-loaded tab in there is holding your wristband or your sticky pad properly. So, anything you want to add to that, Henry?
Yeah, absolutely. So the very first thing I would notice that I noticed that Emma said, Amy said was that it's coming off in one of the sides. The easiest way to test whether it's a cable, the adhesive
Mhm.
electrode, or the wristband is to try this. I mean, you only have two cables, so try them with the wristbands and the adhesive electrode. Whichever cable is giving you the one that's giving you trouble, try with both the wristbands and the adhesive electrodes. If it's happening with both the wristbands and the adhesive electrodes, then definitely the issue is the cable, because I can tell you that, at least in my case, unless I actually pop out the cables from the wristbands, it will not come off. Or unless like I forcefully like pull it, it will not come off. So it's not something that it should just be falling off accidentally without you applying any sort of tension. That should not be happening. So if it's happening with one of your cables, just confirm it's happening with both the wristbands and adhesive electrodes. Yes, if it is, then the issue is definitely one cable. I would get replacement cables. Remember, you don't need to get two of them. If you want, you can get a replacement for only one of them. So that's a possibility. In the case of the wristbands, we do not sell them in the United States, but they're available for replacement. Just reach out to us, to our customer care team via live chat, and describe the issue you're experiencing. We'll be happy to replace them if that is the case. But I would probably start with the cables, because again, this should not be happening. That is just one of the sides is coming off. Both sides should be working exactly the same. You shouldn't be noticing any particular issue with one side over the other. So that's something to note. I also saw that one of the Joanne's recommendations was that to drink water. Yes, drinking plenty of water, keeping yourself hydrated, that will allow your body to become more conductive. But in my experience, this is something that varies a lot from one person to another, right? Some people will need to set the intensity really low. Some people will need to set the intensity really high. Something that was not discussed here in Amy's message was the intensity. I don't think so. So that's something to keep in mind too, what intensity you're using. Because I know some people use kind of like the rule of thumb of keeping it under 50%. That doesn't work for everyone. So some people will need to go over 50%, sometimes 70, 80% for it to work. And then another thing that you can try to is adding a little bit of water to the accessory itself. So whether you're using the wristbands or the adhesive electrodes, you can make the surface that's going to be touching your skin a little wet, or you can also moisten your wrist or the area of application and then put the accessories there. So yeah, I would say maybe getting replacement cables, drinking plenty of water, adding some water to the area of application if needed, checking the intensity, make sure the intensity is set correctly. And maybe if you're an old Healy user, your Healy may be set to low current. That's something important to know too. Remember, you can check this on the settings of the Healy 2 app. You can go to settings, my Healy, and then ultimately change the setting to high. At this point, I honestly recommend everyone to just set the Healy to high, especially for anybody who owns a Healy high wave. You do need to have it set to high, otherwise it will not work properly. So yeah, that's what I would say. Remember, adhesive electrodes can be replaced. They can be purchased in the United States. Same with the cables. And again, for the wristbands, if you're in the United States, just reach out to our customer care team and we'll be happy to take care of that.
So I want to do a little demo for you guys, just to kind of give an option of maybe how we can diagnose it ourselves, right? When it comes to conductivity between the wristbands, the body, the mechanical connection of the snap itself, all these things. There's ways to actually take a look at this from like a very objective position. And with the Pink app, as you see on the app itself, there will be a indicator that there is conductivity or there's not, right? It says that frequencies are still flowing, however, there's no connection to the person, right? There's a message like that. Um, and so we can actually test that. It's pretty fun, pretty easy. And I'm just going to bring my phone online here, show you guys a quick little way we can take a peek at this. And then we'll let's see, I'm gonna make that phone co-host. Hang on a second, give me just a second here. And then I can bring it on phone. All right, here we go. Okay, so if I was to I'm gonna share my screen. 1 second here. Okay, it's taking me, come on. It's taking me a second here to get this guy to load up. By connecting those the cables themselves, I want you guys to just inspect your own cable for a second. If you take a look at this snap end and you look inside the little hole there, right? There's two little bars that are actually they're spring bars, and those are what actually when you press this onto the button, whether it's a sticky pad or a wristband, when you press it on, those two little bars spread out momentarily and then collapse back on the tab. So that's the snap. You'll hear a snap, right? So once that snaps on, as Henry said, it's pretty mechanically secure, right? It doesn't just fall off. Now, if yours is just falling off, as is the case with the question here, then one or both of those little wires in there, those little spring-loaded arms, are probably either missing or bent out or have no power, right? No spring-loaded power, and they just allow it to fall off the button. That's not normal. Okay, that's not normal at all. And so we want to make sure that that's not the problem. The only way to solve that, you can inspect it visually, but then you need to replace the cable, right? Pretty simple. All right. So let's see if I can now share. Start share. Here we go. Okay. So here comes my screen. Everybody will be able to see this here in just a second. And my phone goes crazy with all kinds of messages.
Okay, we can see it now here. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so here is my Healy program. And I'm just running one of my favorite programs right now. I'll give away the clue here in just a second. As soon as it loads up, you'll see which one that is. But this is a normal process as it starts to load up and enter our, there we go. Okay. So as you see that's giving me a message right now across the screen that frequencies are being generated, but there's no measurable current flow. Okay, so that means that the cables, and if you notice, I've got one cable right here, and I have the other cable right there. So they're not connected to me. They're not connected to anything. Now, I'm gonna give you a little test here. If you lick your thumbs and press them against these two little tabs right there, and if you have the intensity up high enough, again, you got to put some intensity to it. Like Jake was saying, or Henry was saying, you got to make sure that the intensity is proper. And when there's enough conductivity or intensity with the cables, you're going to get a measurable signal. Let me go up a little bit. It depends on the frequency, but I'm just simply holding these two. Look, I'm just holding them. I don't have the wristbands on. I don't have the sticky pads on. I'm just touching the metallic surface of these cables. I licked my fingers, my thumbs. Why would I do that? Well, it improves the conductivity, right? You know, so this is giving me a clue right here that my cables, as far as what you can see here, it's working. So where it plugs into the Healy and the wire itself is not broken, but it doesn't mean that this spring connection in here is still proper. So we've eliminated the fact that it has to do with the actual maybe Healy hardware, right? It plugs into the Healy hardware here. It's not a connection there, but it's a connection in the wires. All right, so then we can replace the wires. Does that make sense? I just wanted to give that demonstration so you guys could see what I'm talking about, how you can do it with, and this eliminates it being a problem with the wristband. This eliminates it being a problem with a sticky pad. It really isolates it down to one part of the hardware. Okay?
Yeah.
Any
And
questions?
I know we got several questions that came in here, but before we switch over to the next one other thing, if you do go to our Healy shop and buy a new pair of connection cables, note that they're sold separately, but I would go ahead and buy 2 of those cables as well. But when you get them, you can do this same test also to see if maybe only one of the cables is bad too. Maybe you don't need to throw away both of them. Maybe one of them's fine. There's one that's causing this issue too. So you can try one at a time to see if that fixes the particular issue, completes the circuit, sort of a thing. You get the frequencies generated, but no currents flowing message goes away too. That way, you might have your 2 new cables, but you can keep maybe one of the old ones as a backup in case something happens to one of the other ones.
Yeah. And because the clue part was in the email there was that one of them is falling off, right? That was the clue.
Mm.
Just one of them is falling off. And when you go to put it on and off, you don't hear or feel that snap, that mechanical connection. If you don't feel that versus the other one, one feels solid, one feels loose. Okay, start with that cable, right? Okay. So there's another question here about why can we go from, did I skip anything? Let's go. Let's see here. Are we drinking enough water? Yes. When people ask how the Blue app scans our body, what's the easiest way to explain the information field? What's the easiest way to explain the quantum? Okay. So first of all, explaining the information field might not be the need, but being able to understand a interface with that field, right? In other words, how does this hardware interface with an invisible field? Okay. But again, there's training on that about the random generator, the random noise generator that's built into Healy, which does interface with consciousness. It is the way in which we can influence what we call a random generator. Random generator means it's a software program that randomly generates ones and zeros, just a logic circuit that's supposed to randomly cut ones and zeros. And over a period of time, you can look at that data and it will be pretty consistent 50-50, zeros, ones over a period of time. However, when you introduce a consciousness into its proximity, when I say close to it, close to a random generator, consciousness will influence that output, not 50-50 anymore. It sways it one way or another. So we can use that content, that data, we can use that as a measuring stick. And so when it's in a proximity with one person, it's this particular output. When it's in the proximity of this person, it's in this particular output. Now, not only is proximity an issue or a condition, but also information is. So when you put a client into the database, the client has what? Name, date of birth, picture, content. That starts to narrow down the field of who it is. And it's the client. Well, that data also influences this random generator. So now it is tuned, I guess you might say, right, to that person. And then when you take that part of the equation and you ask it to come up with choices within another database, it takes that equation, that algorithm of the person and the group of choices and narrows it down to the top 5, right? This is how it weeds out all the other stuff, that just the things that resonate with this database of the client or the proximity of you, and the 5 top choices of the database, whether that database is 6 pieces or 1,000 pieces. It narrows it down to the top 6 relative to the alignment or coherence of that client. Now, that's a lot to explain, right? But I want you to understand the principle. And then we have to find our way of taking that principle, that concept of alignment from a random digital reading device into a field of information of a person and how they collaborate. So that's a really complex way of explaining this. And from a technical side, that gives a lot of data. I normally say it's a bridge. It's a bridge between the field of information and the biological and physical fields of matter. It's a bridge. And people will ask more questions and then we can get deeper. Henry, you've had this question before.
Yeah, I think that the most accurate way I can describe it, if somebody were to ask me what the information field is, first, if I want to explain the definition, I would say it's a network of information that archives or storages absolutely everything that has ever existed from the very moment of anything that ever existed to now and moving forward. And not only storages this in the most minimal form, which is, we just call it information, right? The very basic form of everything that comes into existence. If we go back all the way, like size wise, we just call it information. We don't call it atoms. We don't call it energy. We don't call it matter. We call it information. So once you reach that level, everything becomes the same, essentially. So all that remains is just this network of information that storages absolutely everything that has ever existed. And because everything is the same, then everything is connected. So it's a network that is not only storing information, it's connecting information. And beyond that, if somebody were to or wanted to understand this from different other contexts, it is important to keep in mind that this is a term that we use here at Healy, which, to be honest, of all the different terms that there are to describe this phenomenon, I find that the one that Healy uses, which is information field, is probably the most accurate or even the simplest one. But there are other terms used to describe this. Some people call it Akashic records. Some people call it the morphic field. Some people call it the quantum field. Some people call it universal consciousness, like the collective consciousness. Like there are so many different ways to describe this, but it's essentially just the idea that once you reach such a small scale of everything that exists, all that remains is this network of information, whether you call it strings, whether you call it something, that essentially everything becomes one. There is no differentiation between matter, between me and they, between the spirit and the mind. Everything becomes exactly the same. So that's how I would describe it, if that makes any sense.
We were just talking about conductivity between the wristbands, right? And the body. And the way that the Healy is reading whether that's happening or not, conductivity is measured in basically electron flow. An electron, as Henry's saying, we get tinier and tinier and tinier and tinier beyond the molecule. We get down to electrons that are orbiting everywhere, and electrons have information on them. The inside the electron, and this is another one of the things with our genetic codes of these human bodies. It's a hologram. You can take one strand of DNA and you can reproduce the species, not just the person, but there's a hologram of information everywhere. And within an electron, you've got that same phenomenon. There's a hologram of information that houses essentially everything since the beginning of time. And so if we are able to read the content of an electron, we get a lot of great data. So, and how do we do that? Well, again, it's the invisible field. And there is now a very scientific way that we can look at things from different measuring devices. Healy is just one way that uses one way, which is with the random generator to kind of bridge these things. And speaking of bridges, there's a question here about how come you can go from the blue app to the pink app, but not from the pink app to the blue app when you're transferring a program, right? And that's built on purpose so that you can actually load a program from the blue app, from the advisor portion, whatever, and then send it directly to the other app. But the Healy can only be accessed by one app at a time. So when you switch from the blue to the pink, now you're connected to the pink, right? And until you've shut down the Healy app, the pink app, unless you shut it down, it's going to hold that Bluetooth signal and then make it available for connecting back to the advisor app, right?
Yeah, exactly. And actually, the last question that we have here is kind of related to what you were just discussing about the information field. So, mentioned I saw a video where there was two women saying that the Healy can be used without wires and coil. Is that true? So yeah, usually when people are referring to this topic, there's one particular program in the Healy 2 app or program group called bioenergetic defense. And these programs, actually, let me share my screen. Might be easier to kind of show what I'm referring to. So this is the Healy app manual. So if you go to your back office and go to the manual section and go to your academy, go to the manual section, you'll find this, the Healy app manual. And this is in the bioenergetic defense section here too. And you'll see here, this description is great. It kind of summarizes everything that we just talked about. But, I mentioned that these programs are designed to energetically harmonize negative influences to protect you from energetic breakdowns. And says, in our experience, this program group unfolds its effect directly into the information field. And then it talks about something here that Henry just mentioned. The information field has many different names, such as morphogenic field, Akashic record, etc. And then here, as if you want to, depending on your definition of simple way to explain something, but in our manual here, we refer to, according to our understanding, the information field is the non-material area through which spirit and matter communicate. It reflects what we consider to be the spiritual meaning of life events. So if you want to go with that, if that makes it easier to explain to people, you can certainly use that. But, as it goes on to say further, in our experience, no electrodes are required when using these programs. But if you want to get a more intense effect, you can use electrodes. But this is I think when people are talking about the ability to use, to run Healy 2 app programs without cables and without the coil, this is usually what they're referring to.
Mm-hmm. And remember, I mean, the Healy, when we're talking about the non-visible field, that's frequency. That's waves of energy, waves of information. It's frequency. And we're influenced by it all the time, all day.
Mm-hmm.
The lights in the room, the sun sends frequencies, right? all light is a frequency, it's a wavelength, and our bodies are receiving that. So Healy transmits frequency on the microcurrent carrier wave, or as well as through the frequency generator. So it's happening. How is your body receiving the signal? Through wristband electrodes, through the coil, or through the generator within the Healy. And as Jake just pointed out, that particular whole program group is based on just the way that Healy transmits all by itself. All right. Any other questions we missed, guys? Oh, someone says the program shuts off. So what's the best explanation for that? So when you say a program shuts off, I mean, at the end of a time, it says in there max duration of a program is X, 40 minutes, whatever it is, max duration. That's max duration. That doesn't mean it won't stop prior to that marker, because if the body that it's attached to or the purpose it's been transmitting is done, the body's 100% on all of its receptivity, it will shut off. Healy doesn't give you what you don't need. I mean, that's a cool thing. Every frequency, when your body becomes fully resonant with it, 100% resonant, it's done. It shuts that frequency off, on to the next. So it can shut off ahead of the completion timer. That's one scenario. If it's just shutting off randomly, I mean, and it's not the battery going dead, it's if it got it, go ahead.
Yeah, I just find, to be honest, I've never ever encountered a problem with the program, like just stopping midway. Like I've never encountered that. Like I found, we've noticed other issues that sometimes can come up, but that is an issue that I've never seen. What can happen is that if you're looking at a different app or you block your phone for a while, it may disconnect, and that is okay. The Healy can disconnect and the program will continue running. So it is important to keep in mind the Healy app does not need to be open. It is okay, and it's actually expected that it will disconnect, because if you're not looking at it, you're really not doing anything by just having the app open there. So it disconnects, and then you can connect again and you can continue looking at the progress of your program. But in my experience, the program will never end, unless there's like 5 minutes left, and it may detect that it's enough, and then it ends a few minutes earlier. Halfway through the program, 5 minutes within the program, it will not shut off, unless, as Ken said, there is an issue with the battery. If there is a problem with the battery, you will know this because the green light on the Healy will not blink, and the green light should always blink as you're running a program. If you notice that it simply turns off and you ensure that it was charged beforehand, that is a clear indicator that there may be a problem with the battery, and then that's when you want to apply some of the battery troubleshooting steps.
Yeah, 100%. I find that the Healy hardware is very reliable. I mean, super reliable. Oftentimes it's something on our end, on the devices in the phone's in, something there. But no, once, like Henry said, when that green light is blinking, it's still running, whether you see it on the phone or not, or whatever you're monitoring from. Okay, guys, did we cover everything? We're at the end of our time.
I think I'm just gonna cover real quick another last John's question about the new sleep app.
Oh yeah.
We call that the new app, the Holistic HealAdvisor app. Right now, it's only focused on the sleep topic. So to be honest, it's quite intuitive. There may be future developments, and as we start working on that, there may be future onboardings specifically designed for this app. But as of right now, since it's only focused on the sleep topic, it's very, very straightforward. It's very, very intuitive. The app, unlike some of the other apps that we have, this one was designed so that the onboarding experience basically is within the app itself. So you're going to see that as you are navigating the app, everything will happen automatically. What we call the information field analysis will happen immediately. It's just prompted, everything is automatic. And then ultimately you get your protocol, right? With your programs, your databases that you're supposed to vibrate, your interventions. There really isn't much to say as of right now regarding training for this app because everything is just automatic. If anything, you could go to the settings of the app and disable whether or not you get Healy program recommendations, but that's about it. Beyond that, it really just is literally just opening the app, following the instructions that the app gives you, and then just following the protocol you get every day. It really is that
It's
simple.
really simple, isn't it? I love it, making it so simple. Nice. Well, awesome, guys. Thanks for being here. Thanks for joining us on Tech Tip Tuesday, you guys. We are here the first and the third Tuesday of the month. Next things that are coming up is the Healy Solution series, right? That's coming up, next month? The 8th? Something like that. That's another great call. I just was actually invited to speak on that one, I think. So you might see me there.
Yeah, and actually, I just realized we might need to adjust. I don't think we're going to have Tech Tip Tuesday on
Right.
next, because it's the first, which is the same time as Frequencies and Friends. So, yeah, so I would say join us on Tuesday, September 1st, for Frequencies and Friends at the same time.
Yeah, well, and you just keep track of the schedule. Keep your eye on the group in the Telegram group. The schedule is there. So, but yeah, definitely take a look at what's coming up, and hope that we'll see you there. Thanks everybody for joining. Thank you, Henry. Thank you, Jake. You guys are rock
Thank
stars,
you.
and
Absolutely.
have an amazing day, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye,
guys.
everybody. Take care. See you.